Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. I'm shocked that an unexpected character in Star Trek, Strange New Worlds turns out to be as good an engineer as Scotty in A Crisis. Directed by Andrew Kutz and written by Alan B. McElroy, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 9, Terrarium, strands Lieutenant Erica Ortegas on a barren planetoid with a Gorn. LT Ortegas piloted a shuttlecraft through a mysterious wormhole and into an asteroid field orbiting a gas giant. Erica's shuttle was quickly damaged, and she was forced to perform an emergency crash landing. Cut off from communications with the USS Enterprise, Ortegas had to tap into all of her resourcefulness to survive. Throughout Star Trek, numerous characters have found themselves in similar scenarios, forced to survive on a hostile alien world when their starship crashed. In such a dire predicament, it can be helpful to have a Starfleet engineer present to adapt any handy tech to boost chances of survival and rescue. However, what happens when a Starfleet officer crash lands solo without an engineer? In the case of LT Ortegas, Erica was forced to become her own engineer, and if they'd seen her work, Scotty and Commander Pelia would have been mightily impressed with Ortegas. Lieutenant Erica Ortegas is the best pilot in Star Trek's 23rd century, as she repeatedly proves in her primary role as the helmsman of the USS Enterprise, the flagship of the United Federation of Planets. But who knew Erica had such crack engineering skills to rival Scotty? After crash landing in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 9, Ortegas kept calm and immediately assessed her survival needs. Taking stock of what resources aboard the shuttle survived the crash, Erica quickly jury-rigged a water condenser. Soon, Ortegas had drinkable water. Later in Terrarium, LT Ortegas befriended a Gorn pilot who was previously stranded on the planetoid and saved her life. Erica not only displayed medical training to help the Gorn's injured leg, but she also identified the need to communicate with the alien reptile for their mutual benefit. Ingeniously, Erica was able to retrofit her tricorder into a makeshift universal translator so that the Gorn could understand her. Even if the tricorder could only translate the Gorn's responses to agree and disagree, what Ortegas accomplished was still a breakthrough, especially for a non-engineer. LT Ortegas must have taken engineering courses at Starfleet Academy. Erica is also a veteran of the Klingon War, and she likely saw action that required her to apply critical thinking and ingenuity behind enemy lines. It's simply remarkable what a skilled engineer the Starship Enterprise's helmsman is, especially since Ortegas never alluded to her abilities before. Lieutenant Erica Ortegas may not be counted among the USS Enterprise's engineering team, but she would have a place in that division if Erica wanted to quit being a pilot. Originally, the late Lieutenant Hemmer Bruce Horak was the chief engineer of Captain Christopher Pike's Anson Mount Enterprise. After his tragic death, LT Hemmer was replaced by Commander Pelia. The 5,000-year-old Lanthanite became an engineer late in life, but by the 23rd century, Pelia has mastered engineering to become an instructor at Starfleet Academy. Pelia then finagled her way into becoming the Enterprise's chief engineer in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2's premiere. Of course, Lieutenant Montgomery Scott is destined to succeed Commander Pelia, and Scotty James Doohan will be the Starship Enterprise's chief engineer in Star Trek, the original series. In Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the younger Scotty is talented but still learning and gradually putting the pieces together to become Captain James T. Kirk's William Shatner legendary miracle worker. Lieutenant Erica Ortegas's ingenuity in a post-crash landing scenario in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 9 is a clever and subtle callback to the memorable praise towards Starfleet's engineers from a Vorta named Kevin Christopher Shea in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6, Episode 2, Rocks and Shoals, Captain Benjamin Sisko Avery Brooks and members of his crew survived a crash landing. Several Jem'Hadar soldiers and their Vorta supervisor, Kevin, crashed on the same planet days before. The injured Kevin negotiated for Dr. Julian Bashir Alexander Siddig to treat his injuries, as the Vortis secretly plotted to betray his Jem'Hadar soldiers to Starfleet to guarantee his own safety. Kevin also spoke highly of Starfleet's famous engineers, who can turn rocks into replicators. In Star Trek, Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 9 LT, Erica Ortegas lived up to the high regard Kevin had for Starfleet's engineers, despite not being an engineer herself. Although Scotty has nothing to worry about in terms of Ortegas wanting his job in engineering, LT, Erica Ortegas proved that not every Starfleet officer is cut from the same cloth, because many of her peers wouldn't have the ingenuity Erica used to survive in Star Trek. Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 9, Terrarium. When most fans think of Starfleet's greatest engineers, one name beams through subspace louder than all others: Montgomery Scotty Scott. From the original series through the films, Scotty became the very definition of engineering brilliance, a miracle worker capable of coaxing impossible feats out of tired starships. He set the bar so high that later icons like Geordie LaForge, Ilana Torres, and Miles O'Brien had to measure themselves against him. So, imagine my shock when Star Trek Strange New Worlds quietly introduced an engineer under Captain Christopher Pike's command, who feels every bit as talented, maybe even equal to Scotty. At first, I dismissed the idea. Could anyone really stand shoulder to shoulder with the legend of Starfleet engineering? But after a season's worth of daring repairs, warp core saves, and jury-rigged brilliance, it's hard to deny that someone on Pike's crew just might be Scotty's match. Under Pike, the USS Enterprise isn't short on exceptional officers. We already knew about Spock's logic, Number One's steadiness, and Lon's combat prowess. But in engineering, the show initially leaned on Lieutenant Hemmer, an Ener who brought his own brand of sharp intellect and calm mastery. Hemmer's tragic fate left a void, and it was tempting to believe that void could never be filled. Then came Pelia, a Lanthanite engineer whose centuries of experience gave her an encyclopedic knowledge of warp systems, alien tech, and Starfleet's evolving starship designs. On paper, she seemed quirky and eccentric, more a comic counterbalance than a miracle worker. But the more she appeared, the more it became clear. Her whimsical exterior masked an engineering genius who could not only keep Pike's Enterprise flying, but do so under pressure that would have cracked lesser officers. Scotty's greatness was never just about equations and blueprints. He had an almost musical sense of engineering, the instinct to feel a ship's pulse, to know what it needed even before the sensors did. He'd pull apart a warp manifold with the same finesse a jazz musician might use riffing on stage. That improvisational artistry defined him. And yet, in Pelia, I see shades of that same instinct. Unlike younger engineers who rely solely on training manuals, she draws from lived experience that spans centuries. Where Scotty might calculate the odds, Pelia seems to bend them, drawing solutions from a bag of tricks so wide it borders on magical. In one moment, she'll recall how a 22nd century freighter jury rigged a plasma injector, and in the next, she's modifying 23rd century Starfleet tech in ways the designers never imagined. The real test of any Starfleet engineer isn't fixing things in space dock. It's keeping the ship alive when the hull's buckling, the warp core is seconds from breach, and the captain's giving you no choice but to make it work. Scotty thrived in these moments. He saved the Enterprise more times than fans can count, often with little more than spit, baling wire, and stubborn determination. "I can't change the laws of physics," he'd grumble, right before doing exactly that. But Pike's crew has had its fair share of high-stakes moments too, and Pelia has risen to the occasion in ways that mirror Scotty's best. Whether it's stabilizing warp drives under Klingon assault, improvising repairs while stranded in deep space, or modifying systems to survive anomalies that should have shredded the ship, Pelia's solutions carry that same flavor of brilliance under fire. She doesn't panic. She doesn't freeze. She gets it done. And when she gets it done, she does it with a twinkle in her eye that reminds me of Scotty's mischievous grin after pulling off the impossible. Engineering in Star Trek has always been more than technical competence. Fans loved their engineers because of personality. Scotty had charm, humor, and a tendency to undersell his abilities so that when he over-delivered, it felt like magic. Geordie was earnest and thoughtful. Torres was fiery, but brilliant. O'Brien was a blue-collar miracle worker who got things done without fuss. Pelia carries her own distinct style. She's quirky, eccentric, sometimes scatterbrained on the surface, but underneath, she's razor-sharp. Her centuries of life give her perspective, but they also grant her a certain playfulness. She doesn't just fix things. She enjoys the art of it. Watching her work feels like watching a master chef improvise with whatever's in the pantry, unexpected, delightful, and effective. It's this combination of skill and personality that makes me sit up and say, yes, she belongs in the conversation with Scotty. Here's the tricky part. Scotty's legend is not just about his work, it's about legacy. He didn't merely keep the enterprise together. He became an enduring symbol of engineering excellence in Star Trek. He was the standard by which others were measured. So when I say someone on Pike's crew is as good as Scotty, I'm not saying Scotty loses anything. His place in history is cemented. What I am saying is that Pelia and Hammer before her demonstrates that Starfleet engineering brilliance isn't the domain of one man alone. Scotty may have been the first miracle worker audiences fell in love with, but he is not the only one capable of miracles. Strange New Worlds shows us that the 23rd century was filled with minds that could match his genius, and that's exciting. Part of what makes Strange New Worlds such a joy is how it bridges past and future, fleshing out the era before Kirk and Spock's legendary adventures. It reminds us that the Enterprise was always a ship of brilliance, not just because of the names we already know, but because of the unsung heroes who came before. By introducing Pelia, the show acknowledges that Scotty didn't exist in a vacuum. He inherited a tradition of engineering excellence from those who kept the ship running in Pike's time. Pelia's presence doesn't diminish Scotty. It enriches him. It suggests that when Scotty steps aboard the Enterprise, he's not just bringing raw genius, he's stepping into the shoes of engineers who were every bit as capable. And maybe, just maybe, some of Scotty's future brilliance owes a debt to the foundation they laid. Conclusion. A shared throne. So, am I really saying that someone on Captain Pike's crew is as good as Scotty? Yes, though not in a way that dethrones him. Scotty remains the legend, the miracle worker, the beating heart of Starfleet engineering. But Pelia proves that the universe of Star Trek is wide enough for more than one miracle worker. To my surprise, I'm not offended by this revelation. I'm delighted. It means the spirit of Scotty lives on not just in his own legend, but in the shared brilliance of those who came before and after him. It means Starfleet isn't defined by one engineer, but by a legacy of brilliance that spans centuries. And when I watch Pelia fiddle with circuits, chuckle to herself, and then save the ship with a solution no one else could see, I can't help but think, Scotty would be proud. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.